Fight Till I'm Good Enough was a bit of an unexpected surprise to the Murder Drones fandom. Most hadn't expected much content after the show's finale, at least outside of the mythical season 2, so many were excited at the idea of a music video to celebrate the finale's anniversary. And when that video finally dropped, many people loved the lyrics and got right to analyzing their deeper meaning and what they could mean for the characters and the show, and I'm here to throw my hat in the ring. Welcome to a lyrical analysis of Fight Till I'm Good Enough.
I see the way that they look at me and see what I couldn't be. The one who's good enough.
I think this line may have three potential meanings. First, I think it's referring to the relationship Uzi had with her father Khan at the beginning of the story. Because of Khan's neglect, Uzi grew up feeling like she wasn't good enough, which caused her to develop her desire for vengeance against the disassembly drones and humans, not just to free the workers of Copper 9, but also to prove herself to her father. However, I think these lyrics could also be referring to N and his relationship with B and J prior to the show as well. N was trapped in an abusive relationship with J, trying to earn her approval despite her impossibly high standards. And B, while not being as extreme, still brushed off his feelings and was complicit in J's abuse. Most obviously, however, it's referring to the general plot of the music video, and fearing he isn't good enough and trying to win the approval of Uzi's parents. I believe this verse is in reference to both N and Uzi. The worker drones were expected to fall in line with and conform to the general attitude of nihilism that had become popular in the Uzi, on the other hand, wasn't content with sitting placidly while knowing her kind was being slaughtered and fought to do something about it. Thus, she was branded as a weirdo and outcasted. Similarly, the disassembly drones were expected to blindly follow company policy and do their jobs, not even knowing what would happen to them once they were finished. Cruelty and the will to kill was expected and rewarded, as their need to consume oil meant they were more or less forced to kill in order to survive, and wasn't as cruel and sadistic as his fellow disassembly drones and thus was seen as weak. And when he began to question the company's true motivation for sending them, he was nearly killed for his disobedience. The two were meant to be simple and conform to the roles they had been built into, yet they rebelled and fought back.
But since you ripped the world I had in two, I was broken, rearranged beyond the life I thought I knew. It feels so damn strange.
Now, I believe this verse is a double entendre. Obviously, it's referring to the solver and how it literally tore the planet apart. However, I also think it's referring to how the solver tore apart Uzi's mind. Before all the Solver stuff happened, Uzi thought the villains were the disassembly drones and their human creators. Yet, not only does she learn that the monsters that have been tormenting her kind for years are actually people suffering under their own abuse, but she also inherited an eldritch virus from her thought to be deceased mother. And when her Solver awakens, not only does she suffer a horrible, disfiguring mutation, but she also develops a lust for her own kind's oil, almost turning her into the very monster she had once hated. By the end of the show, she realizes it's much bigger than even the humans and that her entire planet is on the line. The solver had not only ripped her world in two literally, but metaphorically, changing her entire perspective about the relationship between the workers and disassemblers, but also the planet she had come to call home.
I know that I'm more than you thought. Yes, I'm not some story's hero. Won't give up and give them a good excuse to write me off like a weirdo. So the ones who tell me that I'm not the loser that they thought got nothing left to lose, just gotta prove that I'm good.
I think the chorus is meant to be in reference to the core thesis of the show, the idea that you shouldn't have to conform to others' expectations of you, and that true happiness can only be achieved by living fringe but free. Both N and Uzi were victims of past abuse and trauma. Uzi was neglected by her father and outcasted by her community, and N had been conditioned to see abuse as normal. However, rather than giving up and giving those who hurt them an excuse to write them off as weirdos, they instead fought back to try and earn their own happiness. They might not have been what the people around them thought of as perfect, and they may not have been morally pure heroes, but they would still fight to prove that they were, in fact, good enough.
Future you're unprepared for within you, evil capacity. It has a name, it has a voice. It's
Stin's verse has definitely received the most attention when it comes to discussion of this song, and that's not without reason. This lyric has some pretty interesting implications, and as an analysis of N's character, it says a lot. Firstly, the line about a future you're unprepared for could suggest that N is feeling conflicted about his new status quo after everything that's happened. I mean, think about it. For over 20 years, N had thought he knew what his purpose was to serve his creators and be a punching bag for whoever was his superior. However, now that he's free and able to make his own choices, he isn't sure what to do. He spent so long having his fate be determined by others, and now that he's been given the opportunity to write his own destiny, he isn't sure how to feel about that.
me. Either you're suffering, either you're buffering. As I grow stronger within her, this is the way the world ends. Not with a bang, but a whimper.
This verse has some pretty interesting meaning, as the line, I feel your suffering, could imply that, even in this weakened state, the solver is still in N's mind and could possibly still have control over him, perhaps using its influence to give or exacerbate these anxious thoughts. However, I don't think this is just reflecting N's mental state, but also Uzi's. Uzi is the solver's new host, it exists within her body, and, if the music video is anything to go by, can still cause chaos. If it wanted to, there would be nothing stopping it from continuing its original omnicidal plan, and if it did, Uzi would be somewhat to blame for that.
Nothing. And you will always be nothing. Ask yourself if I am bluffing. Ask yourself if you are good enough. The answer is no. I bet most.
Like what I said in the previous section, these lyrics imply that Sin can still get into N's head, can still give him intrusive thoughts, and still torture him, even if mentally rather than physically. It also implies that, even though N is in a safe space with people who care about him, he still has some of his old kick puppyism.
Inside your head that says they're safer. If you're in debt, cause every iota of your data says that there will be a day that you can love everyone you love instead.
This verse is the most interesting to me because it suggests something very interesting and very dark about N's mental state. The line, "they're safer if you're dead," seems to suggest that N feels like he's some danger to his peers, and that the only way to keep him safe would be for him to die. This does make sense, as he expressed a similar feeling in episode 3. At the end of the day, N is a disassembly drone. He was made to kill. Causing death and misery is baked into his programming. He'll never be able to escape the violence that's an innate part of him. A reminder of the death he's caused is literally just a short walk away from his new home. What's stopping something from happening? Him running low on oil, or even just losing control of himself, and him becoming a danger to the very people he loves. I think this verse is suggesting that N, to some degree, feels like he doesn't deserve to live, possibly struggling with some form of passive suicidal idolation. After all, he's a disassembly drone who's killed thousands of innocent beings, organic and inorganic alike. Why should he deserve to live in happiness after he's caused so much pain? Although, the fact this lyric is sung by Sing directly to N rather than N or Uzi to the audience, as well as the "I'm the voice inside your head" part, seems to imply he's keeping all these feelings bottled up, very in character for him, and that Sing may be egging him on. I'm not saying season 2, but if we got something else exploring these characters in the future, I wouldn't be surprised to see these feelings of guilt, even if not explicit suicidal adulation, explored further. Fight Till I'm Good Enough was an unexpected surprise, but a welcome one, and with it came a deluge of ideas to snack on. From Uzi struggling with being the Solver's new host, to N's guilt about his past as a disassembly drone, to further references on the show's themes of identity and autonomy, it's no wonder why this show has become a favorite amongst the fandom. Anyway, that's all for me. Thanks for watching, subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you all next time.